Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series where we truly do have the spark to continue making these videos no matter what our schedule looks like. Sometimes I have to wake up very early in the morning to go do my actual job, and sometimes I don't. Pray for me and me actually getting a job that I like, because holy shit, retail is the worst thing you've ever had. Now let's go ahead and get on to the thing you're actually all really here for, the anime titties, the anime thighs, and the anime abs. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of abs in this, but hey, you gotta do a few crunches before you can get to the good stuff. That being said, this is not a bad episode. This is probably one of the surpriser ones. Not necessarily for the reasons you're thinking, but let's go ahead and just jump right into it. You see, today we're going to be looking at a little series, episode 2 of the series itself, Muttsuri do Sukebe, episode 2, done by our friends over at Bunny Walker, running at a total of 19 categories with about a 15 minute and 46 second runtime, with notable categories of which being out in public, just straight up, hey guys, if you look left, you will see giant boob just hitting the windows, because they don't care. Second category, notable of which is gang shit. And if you're wondering, oh, so the Crips and the Bloods, no, they are just getting people together and being like, all right, I call this the firing squad because you're all going to shoot your loads at me. That being said, the third and final category itself would in fact be the workforce. And if you're wondering what I mean by workforce, I mean there are jobs aplenty. You didn't put any applications, but you sure got a job for feet, you got a job for hands, you got a job for booba, and pretty much anything else that you can think of as a part of the human body. To this day, I have not seen a thigh job show up on any of these, but you have to take what you can get, and honestly, you guys can't see it, but literally right to the left of me is a whole bunch of prints that I got done at a convention a few months ago, and I can safely say they're nice. That being said, let's just get into it, because we're already here. But before we get into it, if you like these videos, I know I don't usually do this, but I kind of want to start doing it more and more, because hey, when you actually do it, you get kind of results. And that's not me, that is the algorithm itself. I'm not a subscribers guy, but if you like the videos and you want to see more of them, all these different types of reviews, and hopefully more variety content that comes out that's usually still focused around the NSFW situation, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. If you don't like it, you can turn off the bell notification, because that thing does a whole lot of good. And if you don't want to, and you want to get everything all the time forever, hit that bell notification and like the video if you want to. You don't have to, because I really don't care. There, you're not going to be able to see the dislikes anyway, but I am, so I can just know what I need to get good at and what I don't need to. That being said, enough shilling, let's get into the actual episode. You see, Muttsuri do Sukebe, episode 2, starts out with the main character and his sisters essentially making sure that the mom is on the same page as everybody else. And if you're probably wondering what that means, it means they're all holding her down, because she's like, no, I don't really feel like getting laid or anything like that. And the kid's like, but ma'am. And then she's like, all right, if you must. To which case it leads into scene number 1. And only scene number 1. There is one scene of the 15 minutes and 46 seconds of runtime in this entire episode. There is only one scene. And you're probably thinking, oh, well then what's the rest of it for? Credits. That's how long it is. You see, scene number 1 goes from 20 seconds in. 20 seconds in. You have 20 seconds to figure out what's going on if you didn't watch the first episode. And then it goes all the way to 14 minutes and 5 seconds. Leaving a total of 1 minute and 41 seconds left over for credits, the logo to play at the end for the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's Haname. That being said, along with that, that's it. Most of it, I have a rule when making these sorts of scenes and comparisons that the actual, scenes themselves are counted if there's a little bit of a break in between the skin shown, that I will cut and then be like, well, that's clearly a second one, that's clearly a third one. but the scene itself has to have at least 5 to about 8 seconds within that margin of nothing. If it's about 8 seconds or less time without any actual scene, I'll kind of like, and then it immediately cuts to the next one, then I'll let it go. But going from 20 seconds in to 14 minutes and 5 seconds in, there's really not a lot of time to breathe, because a lot of the time, something's in your mouth. That being said, what actually happens in this? Because the main plot of this all happens in this time period. You see, there's the main character, the two sisters, and the mother, who we are actually learning a little bit about, as the first thing that happens in this essentially scene itself goes into essentially the kind of a recap almost, showing off each different girl, giving a little scene of them and their kind of like overall like pick your character. That's kind of what's going on right now. And during that whole pick your own character thing, it finally gets to the very end with it going sister, sister, mother, and then the mother gets her own little screen time as it then cuts back to her actually in the scenario that she's starting out with right now. You see, during this actual scene itself, it then goes into her explaining a lot of her idle past. And when I say idle, I don't mean like sitting around idly and not doing anything. I mean like Japanese idol, the thing that apparently every female that is relatively famous in anime is, because that's how you describe if somebody is famous or not in anime, by just saying they're an idol and nothing else. Because we only call it American Idol because idol is a very old word. I've said idol a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. You see, she wasn't really an nope, not going to say it again. She was just a straight up popcorn, but replace the first letters of each word. And now take out cop and then put star at the end. If you can't figure it out, trust me, give it a second, you'll be able to. You're only trying your best. That being said, right after her starlight moments is kind of run and done, it then gets over to a little bit of almost kind of like all of them jumping him all at once, which is probably where the gang scenario comes in, where they all just start going like balls to the walls. They're all there. There. That being said, after they've all had their time, there's a little bit of a cut in between it where it goes to like, oh, let's establish that they're in a different scenario. Oh, there's one of the sisters and the brother just like out there in the middle of school. And what's underneath? Oh, there's his finger in her underwear. And then it immediately cuts to where it earns the tag for public. And it's pretty much just straight up in a school. Like they are straight up just like up against the glass, like every time he pushes her, it makes it a sound with her booba hitting the window, and I'm surprised that nobody caught them, because if you're a voyeur, then this is how you get off. And after that scene itself, it kind of like simmers down a bit, then goes into, oh, what's this? All of them in maid outfits. And if there's one thing I've learned, there's a little bit of a running theme when it comes to maids, because Kanojo X Kanojo X Kanojo definitely has that running for them at the moment, and I don't like doing stuff in a row, unless it's vanilla, because vanilla is everywhere. There's a reason it's the most popular flavor. But maid, a little bit harder to find, but somehow I found 2 in a row. That being said, after the maid moment itself, it kind of like simmers back down, and then it goes into a boss rush. And when I mean boss rush, I mean all 3 of the girls are sitting there waiting to be defeated. How can I say? They've decided to go for the barbarian/monk build, where they're not really wearing any armor. It's all very scantily clad, so they can get extra movement and flexibility. They're all naked is what I'm trying to say. And not only are they all naked, they're all ready to fight at the exact same time, which is why if you wanted to do this, you would have to have the background music for Hollow Knight playing, because damn it, you are straight up in Godholm trying to get all the pantheons done. And my saluting to this man who has the stamina and patience to be able to conquer each single one, because damn, I still haven't even beaten that level of Hollow Knight yet. Or not level, just the straight up DLC itself. The main story I haven't even got through. Fuck, some people have strategy. That being said, after the boss rush, it kind of simmers back down to, oh, the one thing that could have stopped all of this going on is going to happen. You see, she's the mom in the scenario does in fact have a husband, but he's always away on work. Naturally, otherwise who would satisfy my many different things that I need? Well, him. The husband comes home, and you kind of think like, oh, so they're going to be a little bit more sneaky about it. No, the husband gets blackout drunk and then immediately starts passing out in different spots, worried about the next day that he has to go to work because he flies off. And before he flies off, there's different scenes of just like him just watching TV or like lean back in a recliner, just doing nothing, while they're just like going at it like no one's business. To which case, he then actually like just straight up leaves. Like he just goes away into the next job that he has. And I can't necessarily say that I blame him. If you're going to be on that 24/7 grind set, then you might as well. And you know who else is on that grind set? Your probably adopted son who is grinding up against every female relative that you have. If grandma came over, I would be ashamed for what they would do. That being said, essentially when the scene itself ends at 14 minutes and 5 seconds, that's where the episode itself ends. And that's where I can probably get into the review itself. Now, if you're wondering, well, what is there going to be to review? Surprisingly, I got a little bit to go on. So let's go ahead and get into that. Animation. The animation here is not stellar, but it is competent, and it is consistently competent. It is not like 5 middle of the ground, and it almost teeters on 6, but it is like solid animation for what's going on. There are surprising moments as it goes around, but they're very quick and far between, and some scenes can loop a little bit too long, but they're not necessarily negatives in that way because, like I said, this is only about 15 and a half minutes. That being said, animation can be done a lot between all this different time that's being given. 13 minutes and 55 seconds, I believe? No, 13 minutes and 45 seconds. Essentially takes place in this whole thing, and I can't necessarily say that there's a bad moment in it. Throughout all of it, the animation is consistent, and it just like it runs on this smoothness that it's like, hey, we're shooting for a 7, we're gonna be a 7, and then it succeeds because it does. And so yeah, animation 7 out of 10. Can safely say that it's not bad. Now let's go ahead and get into the thing that was honestly a little hard to rank in this one. The characters and story. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the story here? This is literally just all one big scene that covers the entire thing. Well, it's giving equal opportunity to pretty much every single girl that's in the room. It's giving small amounts of detail to different characters, being that the sister that's a goody two-shoes, but also the character that also likes to go out and have fun. The mother who had a very spicy history, being I'm not going to say it, being a Japanese star that works in the adult film industry. To which case, it also leads into the actual party girl who's willing to like go out and start doing crazy shit. If you're wondering, yeah, the OnlyFans one. That being said, there's a little bit of character in each one. Like, you never notice a distinction that like sets them as like completely different characters, but you never mix them up. Not because of their design, like you can physically hear the way that they're being portrayed in different spots. That being said, there's not really a ton going on in the plot. It's pretty much just like, let's see how many different ways that we can put this guy getting laid in all these different spots, because that's pretty much what it's going for. I'd say this is also a 7 out of 10, specifically for the characters being not cardboard bland cutouts and not having reused voice lines. They're all distinguishable, and they're all necessarily like you like the people that are here. You don't despise them, and they are decent at what they do. So I'd say that's worthy of 7 out of 10, being distinct and like, hey, I like that girl. So you then like cut for that girl, or you like, I'm feeling this one. So you switch over to the next one, and it's only natural. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the thing that I guess we're all really here for in the bulk of this episode. The plot. Now, the plot itself is all of it. This is a straight up 9 out of 10, and here's my reasoning for it. The 9 out of 10 for this comes from the fact that this is one continuous scene. that doesn't really have any lagging moments, that uses the large amounts of quality that it has and the amount of categories that it can squeeze into this. Because 15.5 minutes isn't that long comparatively to a lot of these sorts of things. Some of them are within 45 minutes long, and some of them are within 10 minutes. But 15 minutes is that sweet spot where it's just short enough to where you feel like you gotta punch in a lot. And this makes absolute use of everything that it has. And it may only come in on technicalities when it comes to one or two of the categories, but what it does well. Like, the most notable tags that I put here, that I always put in my episodes, are all dedicated to things that I think stand out among the rest. Why people would come to this, why the majority of people would show up. The workforce being the thing, like, hey, I want to see what they can use their hands for. I wonder what they can use their booba for. I wonder what they can use their mouth, feet, legs, whatever you want. All of that's going on, I feel like that is such a broad statement that it draws people in. And not once was I ever looking at this and thinking, that's not really, like, necessary. Like, they didn't really earn that one. But they most certainly earned every single one that I picked out, and every single one that I've seen beforehand. Not to mention, length and quality somehow intertwine here. The reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is because 10 out of 10s are a personal pick for mine. A 9 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10 are interchangeable, specifically for me though. If a 10 out of 10 is something that I highly recommend, I'm recommending it to the people that watch it for the same reason that I watch it. If there is a abs, MILF, big booba, dark-skinned elf waifu, then you know exactly why I'm recommending it to you. But if there is something that is objectively good, then it's a 9 out of 10. Kind of how some people can view 𝓗𝓮𝓷𝓽𝓪𝓲 Redemption as an objectively well-made movie and not call it a 10 out of 10. When people see the movie The Joker, perhaps, that they continuously say that it is a very, very well done movie. The cinematography, the acting, the areas that it decides to continue the plot and characters is incredibly well done, but it's not going to be their all-time favorite movie. 10 out of 10 movies for people specifically are meant because they are 10 out of 10s for them themselves. Sin City happens to be one of my favorite, if not my most favorite movie of all time. Would I say it's categorically one of the best in a lot of these different scenarios? No. Would I consider it my personal favorite movie of all time? Possibly, because it hits all the different things that I like about these movies. So that's the reason I'm giving this plot a 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10. Personal preference, and that's it. If you see this and you say it's a 10 out of 10, Godspeed and every possible right to you. Well, I am not going to argue with you. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the overall score. Adding the numbers up and rounding it about, I'd honestly say that this is an 8 out of 10, mathematically speaking. 977 put together is 8 averaged out. This is one of those things that the first episode wasn't that great. I'd honestly skip it because you don't need to know anything that's going on, because it never really gets brought up past this point. If I were you, I would skip securely to the second episode and I would give it a hard, long watch. And this is one of those episodes that I feel like if you watched it and then you stuck with it through the entirety of it, you would probably gain about 3 inches to your PP and your breast size would go up by a cup. Like, that is how good. This is one of those ones where it's like, if you make it through the whole thing and you just have that, like, that Chad chin, just, yes, I agree. This was great. That's kind of what I'm getting. That being said, I'd recommend this 8 out of 10 across the board, and until next time, I'm going to go ahead and end it there because I feel like I've been rambling for a while. Thank you everybody for being here. This is an amazingly fun time, and I love doing this. Like I said before, if you want to, subscribe. If you haven't already, I'm not going to pull out the graph that's just like, look at graph, 75% of you aren't subscribed, because I don't really know. I don't check that graph all that much. That being said, until next time, I'll see you guys whenever I upload this, because I don't know when I'm uploading this. But until next time, I have been the Doctor. Thank you everybody for being here, and remember, have a nice day, don't be a dick, there's too many of them, and wash your fucking hands. I've been the Doctor. Peace.